Hello friends, welcome back. This is Chetna and we are going to start with the new chapter today. The name of the chapter is I Want Something in a Cage. Yes, it's right. I Want Something in a Cage. It's a very interesting chapter which talks about a person, an old man who owns a pet shop whose name is Mr. Purcell, right? We are going to read about it. So here you can see basically this man owns a pet shop and he has a lot variety of animals, birds kept around his shop, and he's very used to listening all the sounds all the day long, right? This is what about Mr. Purcell we can read about this chapter. So he was a small fuzzy man. This we are talking about Mr. Purcell, the old man. He was a small fuzzy man with red cheeks and a melon stomach. Melon stomach means he was very fat. Here you can see he was very fat, right? He wore large glasses which gave him an appearance of that of an owl, like he was very wise. Uski glasses ऐसे depict करती थी. He had all sorts of birds and animals in his shop. Here you can see all sorts of birds, you name it and it will be there. So this was about him. So what happened, what was his daily routine? Each morning he used to, after opening the shop, Mr. Purcell would sit on his high stool behind the counter, unfold his morning paper and digest the day's news. So just like all shopkeepers, आपने notice किया होगा, what they do in the morning is after opening their shops, they are in a habit. Most of them, like most of the shopkeepers are in habit of reading the newspaper. So what Mr. Purcell used to do, he used to, literally read each and everything that was present on the newspaper, starting from the love lawns or the advertisement. Everything that was on the newspaper was in his mind. He digested the news, means he read it very carefully. So this was about Mr. Purcell and his daily routine. Okay. So now what happened? One fine day, there was a bell over the door that jingled whenever a customer came in. So what happened in his shop? उनकी shop में एक bell लगी हुई थी. Right when somebody enters it, वो bell वहाँ से directly बज जाती थी और उनको पता चल जाता कि एक customer आया है. But what happened that day? For the very first time, Mr. Purcell ने notice किया कि वो bell ही नहीं बजी. It failed to ring. That was the first time he could, see in his whole career that अभी तक तो यार bell ही नहीं बजी. मतलब ऐसा कभी भी नहीं हुआ था. But that was the strange thing that happened. So simply Mr. Purcell glanced and he could see a stranger standing just inside door as if he had materialized out of air, which means ऐसा लग रहा था कि हवा से ही उतर गया कोई बंदा. This statement is basically trying to say that जैसे कोई हवा से ही आ जाता है, which means कि जब वो stranger अंदर आया उसको पता ही नहीं चला, ना bell ring हुई, and he was so lost in his reading कि उनको लगा पता नहीं यार कहाँ से हवा में से ही बंदा आ गया. So this is what he meant right there. So the shopkeeper slid off his stool and greeted him. So just like any other shopkeeper, उसने अपना stool side पे रखा and he said good morning, right? He said what can I do for you? उसने उस stranger से पूछा, but the stranger, उसने उसको ज़्यादा ध्यान नहीं दिया उस stranger ने उस पे, and stranger was just looking around here and there in the whole shop, right? So what was about the stranger? The man's shiny shoes squeaked forward, which means he entered in. He was wearing a cheap, ill-fitted but a new suit, and the man, ignoring the shopkeeper, gazed around the shop. So what happened? वो shopkeeper, वो जो stranger आया shop में, he was wearing a new suit. That was very sure that the suit he was wearing was new. But the thing was, जो उसने suit डाला हुआ था, it was very ill-fitted. मतलब it was very loose and ऐसा नहीं लग रहा था कि उसकी fitting का है. And that too, it was very cheap, right? So this was about the stranger. So he was not paying attention कि अच्छा वहाँ पे shopkeeper भी खड़ा है. वो सिर्फ आस-पास shop में देखता रहता है stranger. What happened? अब वो Mr. Purcell सोच रहे थे कि अब मैं क्या करूँ, मैं इससे कैसे बात करने की कोशिश करूँ. That's when Mr. Purcell said a nasty morning. Volunteer at the shopkeeper, उन्होंने बोला ऐसा. He clasped both hands across his melon-like stomach. उन्होंने फिर अपने melon-like यानी कि बड़े से पेट पे उन्होंने हाथ रखे ऐसे, and smile importantly. I see by the paper that we are in for a cold spell. Now what was it you wanted? So what happened? Shopkeeper को समझ में नहीं आ रहा था कि मैं इनसे क्या बात करूं. So the shopkeeper said, हाँ मैंने newspaper में पढ़ा है कि winters आने वाली है, since he was wearing a suit. So he was just trying to relate, and he at the end he asked the stranger that what do you want? So let's see what happens next. So that's when, जब उन्होंने इतनी एक्सटेंड की कॉन्वर्जेशन, मिस्टर पर्सल ने इतने एफर्ट्स किए उससे बात करने के लिए, that's when the man actually noticed him and he said that I want something in a cage. So here we can see that the man was not sure what he wanted. He was just like, I want something in a cage and I don't know what it is, but I want something in a cage, right? Something in a cage, said Mr. Purcell, some sort of a pet, and he was like, क्या चाहिए तुम्हें केज में, कोई पेट चाहिए, क्या चाहिए, right? तो the man replied, जो stranger था, he said, the customer said that something in a cage, something that is small. उसने फिर और define किया कि मुझे क्या चाहिए, मुझे चाहिए जो कि पिंजरे में हो और छोटा सा हो, right? That's what he said. Now let me think. Now Mr. Purcell thinks, अच्छा ठीक है, सोचता रहा कि क्या चाहिए होगा उसको. Then he said a rat perhaps. He also mentions, Mr. Purcell कहते हैं कि मेरे पास एक white rats बहुत अच्छे अच्छे हैं, वो भी केज में होंगे, वो भी small होंगे, right? तो उसकी requirement को तो मैच कर रहे थे rats. So what happened? But that man replied, no, I don't want a rat. I want something with wings. अब उसने और detailed explanation दी कि मुझे क्या चाहिए. I want something that is in cage. I want something that is small, and I want something that has wings. So अब क्या हुआ? He said a bird. A bird could be small. A bird could fit into that category. So the shopkeeper said, is it a bird that you need? So a bird's all right. This is what the customer said. Yeah, a bird is all right. The customer pointed to a suspended cage. A cage was right there hanging on the shop, and he pointed towards that cage and he said, that cage. So that cage, what happened in that cage? There were two doves in that cage, which contained two snowy birds. Snowy birds, they are describing how beautiful the doves were. They were just, as white as snow. Here also you can see that they were very beautiful. So how much for those? So the customer here, the strange man, asked कि कितने की है यार ये doves? So what happens is $5.50 came the prompt reply. The shopkeeper insisted that it was a very reasonable price. So Mr. Purcell said $5.50. So here what he meant was $5.50. तो उनका एकदम prompt reply है. Prompt means a very quick answer, and he also said that it's a very reasonable price. इस price में आपको कहीं पे भी birds नहीं मिल सकती. So but what happened? That strange man said, I'd like to have these birds. मुझे ये birds चाहिए, but I've just got $5 is what I got, right? He said, the customer said this. So what happened? Mr. Purcell, like any other shopkeeper, उन्होंने 2 मिनट लिए और अपने माइंड में कैलकुलेशन की, if I sell it for $5 मुझे कोई प्रॉफिट होगा कि नहीं. So then he realized कि हाँ मुझे $5 में भी थोड़ा बहुत प्रॉफिट हो जाएगा. That's when Mr. Purcell agreed to that and handed over the birds to the customer. और उन्होंने पकड़ा दी उस stranger को $5 में 2 doves, right? The man was listening to the constant chittering, the rushing, the scurry of the shop and asked the shopkeeper, doesn't it get to you? It means he was like कि यार तुम्हें तंग नहीं होता, तुम्हें परेशान नहीं होता, सारा दिन इतनी चटर चाटर होती है. And Mr. Purcell was confused कि what to reply, because Mr. Purcell had got used to that scenario. उनके लिए बहुत common था. उनको तो ऐसे लगता था कि उनको voice ही सुन नहीं रही है, किसी की चटर चाटर सुन ही नहीं रही है. So in his head, Mr. Purcell was like कि यार अब मैं इसको क्या reply करूँ? Then Mr. Purcell said that yes, हाँ कभी कभी लगता है. So he just basically wanted to end the conversation right there. Okay. So after that, Mr. Purcell wanted कि वो बंदा ना जल्दी से निकल जाए शॉप के बाहर, but that person was standing right there, and the person said, how long do you think it took me to make $5? वो बंदा, वो जो stranger था, उसने खुद ही question पूछने लगा, तुम्हें क्या लगता है यार मैंने ये $5 कितने टाइम में कमाए होंगे? So in that time, Mr. Purcell was thinking, यार I don't want to talk to this person, but Mr. Purcell को लगता है I am a shopkeeper और वो उससे dutifully पूछते हैं. So he asked that person dutifully, अच्छा बता दो, how long did it take you to earn those $5, right? So the man laughed. वो wait ही नहीं करता था कि Mr. Purcell कुछ बोले. He used to answer it that quickly. So the man laughed and he said 10 years. He said that 10 years at hard labor, 10 years to earn $5.50 a year, right? So basically here the person tells that a person here is telling that he was under prison. So basically उसको क्या मिलते थे, 50 cents a year मिलते थे, like $0.50 a year, and in 10 years he was able to make up $5, which shows that he was in prison for 10 years और उसने वहाँ पे इतनी लेबर की कि उसको at the end of the labor सिर्फ $5 मिले और एक ill-fitted suit मिला. So this is his story which the stranger was actually sharing with the shopkeeper, Mr. Purcell. So the man added, like the stranger added, they give you $5. They, by here, they means the people in the prison, the policemen, they give you $5 and a cheap suit and tell you not to get caught again. मतलब, he says that when you are in prison, वो तुमसे इतनी लेबर करवाएंगे और at the end they will just give you $5 और वो कहते हैं दोबारा मत पकड़े जाना. They also give you a suit. He mentions that. So Mr. Purcell, he was, you know, astonished. वो हैरान हो गया, यार इस बंदे ने $5 कमाए for 10 years and वो भी मेरी शॉप पे खर्च कर दिए. So mopping his sweating bro, like he did like this, उसको पसीना आ गया, and he said, now what about the care and feeding of your doves? Now Mr. Purcell was thinking कि इसने doves ले तो लिया, अब ये इसको feed कैसे करेगा इन doves को? That's when the man left abruptly and stepped outside. Then what happened? You will be, you know, very surprised also as we read the chapter. The man left the shop and right when he goes outside holding the cage shoulder high. वो इतना ऊंची उठा लेता है जो भी उसके हाथ में cage होता है. His purchase. First of all, he stares like, you know, we buy something. He bought 2 doves. He stared at that purchase, looked like this, and then what he did, he opened up the cage, took out the dove, and tossed it into the air. So what he did, उसने simply cage को खोल दिया और वो dove को उड़ा दिया, right? And he drew out the second and tossed it too. So I mean, Mr. Purcell was just amazed. He was astonished कि ये क्या हो गया, कैसे इस बंदे ने 2 मिनट में मेरे से खरीदा भी और उन birds को उड़ा भी दिया. So this is the description of the birds. What happened to the birds? The birds were very snowy, right? The birds rose like wind-blown balls of fluffs and were lost in smoky grey of the wintry city. As we know that the winter was approaching, so he mentions like in the smoke of the wintry city, the birds got disappeared. The man gazed at the birds afterwards. जैसे ही उसने उड़ा दिए वो doves को, वो उसको ऐसे gaze करता रहा. He gazed at those birds. He shoved both his hands deep into his trousers. What happened next? He just, you know, he basically pushed his hands into the trousers, that man, and hunched down his head and shuffled away. So basically what happens, उन birds को उड़ा देने के बाद वो जो stranger था, he just put his hands in the pocket and he went from there. This is what happened. And the merchant was left, like the shopkeeper was left confused and muttered, why did he do that? So he was thinking कि इसने ऐसा क्यों किया? And you also must be thinking that why a prisoner, you know, spent all the money that he earned in 10 years and spent it like this. So the basic gist of this chapter is that he wanted to experience freedom the way he had himself experienced freedom. He wanted to give that freedom to the birds also. You know, he wanted to feel the same way and wanted some other creature to feel the freedom. So that's why he bought a pair of doves and just freed them, you know, freed them from the cage in order to experience the freedom, because he knew that how important it was to be free and how it had you know caused him 10 years to take himself out from the prison. So I hope that the story is clear to you guys.